I'm really delighted to welcome you. Um, Myself, I'm Alice Chotard, and I'm joining on behalf of the Weird App platform, and my colleague Laura Canevari from Itaca Solutions is here as well. We're co-hosting today's event. We're co-hosting the CARICOAST network. And the CARICOAST network is very much a community of practice for learning, sharing, connecting, and co-creating around coastal resilience and climate adaptation in the Caribbean. We're really excited to welcome you all. It's a community of practice for co-creating, so it wouldn't be possible without you. And we're very delighted to launch the platform, the community of practice today. So what we'll do is that we'll give you a little bit of background around the Weird App platform. The network will be hosted on the Weird App platform. So I want to give a little bit of background about what the Weird App platform is, why we're hosting it on the platform, and then we'll explain a little bit more about what to expect around CARICOAST, why we've created it, and how you can benefit from the community of practice and take part. So make yourself comfortable, and we are delighted to have you on board. So We Adapt is a global platform for climate change adaptation. It's been around since 2007. It was founded and it's still being hosted by the Stockholm Environment Institute. It's an organization based or headquartered in Sweden, but the We Adapt platform is hosted out of our Oxford office. So as I said, it was created in 2007 and it's evolved hugely since its inception. And we're really proud that today the platform is one of the leading global platforms on climate change adaptation. And it very much is a space where anyone can access content, research, events, courses on climate change adaptation. Anyone can also share their work and they can connect with one another. So it's got multiple functions around learning, sharing, and connecting with one another, which was, we'll get into this in more detail, but this was why we thought it would be a good space to host this network, because the platform already has a large visibility and is quite established as a global platform. So We Adapt in a few numbers. We receive about 300,000 annual visitors, really from all over the world. We have 227 countries and territories represented. You can see the top 50 in the map below, and you can see that it covers all continents and most regions of the world. This year, we're really excited because we passed the milestone of having over 10,000 registered users, which is quite a big milestone for us. We also have over 2,000 organizations published on the platform. We have over 3,500 knowledge resources, and I'll explain a little bit more about what our knowledge resources are on the platform. And those cover over 25 themes and networks. All of the content on the platform is reviewed by our 41 editors that really, again, come from quite a range of countries and all continents around the world. And our content is accessible in over 100 languages, and we can see that the content is indeed accessed, or people read our content in over 89 languages. So it is very much of a global platform, and this is something that we're very proud of. We Adapt in a nutshell, just to give you a little bit more information about what we're trying to achieve with the platform. The first one and the most important one is that it's a platform that is completely free and it's user-led, meaning that anyone can add content. And what we really want there is for good information on climate adaptation to get to where it's needed to have an impact on the ground. The second point is that one of the main reasons why people go to the We Adapt platform is because it is a trusted platform, and it provides credible information that people can trust to support their work. We ensure this by reviewing the content. As I mentioned, we have over 40 editors who review the content. And in addition to that, we also very much value having a diversity of voices, a balance of voices. This is something that is very important for the platform in terms of representing different regions of the world, but also in terms of representing large and small organizations. So this is something we pay quite careful attention to. The content is very much structured, especially the metadata is structured, and this really increases the visibility and the searchability of the content. So we get a lot of visits, and this is one of the reasons why people like having their content published on the WeDAP platform, is because they know they will receive a lot of visibility. We also have settings for low internet access, language functionalities, and we also try to use non-technical language as much as possible, so the content is accessible as widely as possible. And the final point is that we try to leverage technology as much as possible. We have developers working with us to improve the platform on a very regular basis, and we're always thinking about what functionalities can be developed on the platform to support our users. And we're currently doing quite a lot of thinking around AI. And so I mentioned that users on the platform, or anyone who visits the platform, can do these three things: learning, sharing, and connecting. Under Learn, this is very much a space where people can access information to support their work on climate change adaptation. And people can find up-to-date practical information, and that ranges over 25 different themes. And all of the content is reviewed by our editors to ensure quality, credibility, and relevance for the platform. Anyone can share their work on the platform. I'll explain a little bit more about what some of the requirements are, but just to say that it's open to anyone. You just have to register on the platform. And the last point is that anyone, well, you can view people, you can view users and organizations. So people do use the platform to connect with one another, to develop collaborations, to develop new projects. And this is something that we're also trying to focus on at the moment. There will be soon a new functionality, which isn't available at the moment, but this will allow users to send messages, send direct messages to one another, a little bit like you would find on LinkedIn, for example. And so these are the different types of content that you can find on the platform. I won't get into too much detail because we really want to talk about the CARICOAST network. But just to give you an idea about what we can post on the platform, usually we post content that has been published on other platforms. We don't publish original content, but we would welcome reports and blogs, stories, case studies, events, courses, etc., etc. If you have any questions, feel free to post them in the chat. And these are some examples of content, just to give you a little bit of a flavor of what you can find on WeAdapt. So in the top left, you can find some quite high level article which explains, some of the kind of key trends around here, COP30. But then all the way down to more local level community-led content, as you can see in the bottom left. We also try to have quite practical content. You can see in the top right, this is a guidance on how to develop risk and vulnerability assessment. We also have quite a few different courses and trainings and modules available, as you can see in the bottom right. This is an example of an article that's published on the platform. As you can see in the right-hand column, you can find the original publication. This was for a published article, a peer-reviewed article. What we do on the platform, and what this user did, is to create a summary of that original publication. Think about it in terms of a little bit like an executive summary, which is longer than an abstract, but really shares details of the methodology, some of the key findings, some of the implications, and some of the takeaways for users. This is the way we structure this content is very important, because we know this is what our visitors value. They want to find practical content really key takeaways in non-technical language as much as possible. And on those pages, you can also find the users. So this is a really good way of connecting with the authors, as well as the organization. We use tags to be able to find the content more easily. And you can see the themes that this article was tagged to. This is if you click on a tag, on a keyword, then you get all of the content that would be relevant for that keyword. We have about 25 themes on the platform. A lot of those would be relevant to the CARICOAST network. So for example, we have themes on small islands, on vulnerability, nature-based solutions, community-based adaptation, climate finance. All of these would be very much relevant with the CARICOAST network. And so we can cross-post an article or a piece of content to multiple themes and networks. These are themes, they're topics. We also host communities of practice or a network like the CARICOAST network, because we believe that sharing content isn't enough. We also very much want to support people coming together to connect with one another and co-create content. We have a map of case study where you can access information relevant to any part or most parts of the world. And hopefully we'll see even more content coming from the Caribbean through the CARICOAST network. Just a quick slide to say that we spend a lot of time thinking about how the WeDAP platform can be used and how it is indeed used. This is quite tricky with global platforms because we just sort of put the information out there, and it's tricky to really understand where it ends because we have so many viewers from all over the world. But we do surveys and interviews with some of our users, and these are just a few examples of how people around the world have used the WeDAP platform for supporting policy, for supporting adaptation implementation on the ground, for supporting trainings and capacity buildings in communities, like training other farmers, as well as, for example, in Japan, influencing the design of other platforms, national platforms. So these are just a few examples amongst the many that we have around how people are using the platform, which finally gets me to the CARICOAST network, which Laura and I are very excited to be launching today. This is a dedicated space, a space dedicated on the platform for the Caribbean, for coastal resilience in the Caribbean, for those working on coastal resilience. So Laura, if you're happy, I'll now hand over to you to introduce the network.
Thank you so much, Alice. And thank you all for being here for the launch of CARICOAST. The CARICOAST is climate compatible development thought really for purpose. And, you know, for many of us in this virtual room, the Caribbean coastline is not just an abstract line on a map. It's where our homes, our mangroves, our livelihoods, and our memories live. And it's also where climate change is hitting the hardest and first. So we know about stronger hurricanes that arrive before the communities can recover, about chronic erosion, saltwater intrusion, coral, mangrove loss, and fisheries that are under pressure. And this, I say it as someone who has had to rebuild my own home following Hurricane Iota in 2020, and someone who is really trying to build climate compatible coastal livelihoods from the bottom up throughout the region. So what I have seen moving between islands and coastal settings in recent years is that we're all wrestling with very similar problems, but often we're doing so quite in isolation. So for example, you may have in one island, you have a fisher cooperative that is piloting a new gear, a ministry in another island that is drafting a coastal setback policy. And then maybe in another coastal area, you have a community group that is trying to restore mangroves. And yet these experiences don't always talk to each other. And we keep reinventing the wheel. We keep repeating mistakes, and hard-won lessons disappear when the project ends. So CARICOAST really is a place that is being created to help change that pattern. So it is an open and collaborative network that, as Alice explained, is hosted on We Adapt to unite professionals that are working on coastal adaptation and ocean resilience across the region. And it exists in order to share knowledge, to spotlight innovation, and to strengthen coastal adaptation and resilience in the Caribbean, all the way from the shoreline location to the regional scale, and from field practice to high-level strategy. And I think this is a very timely moment to establish CARICOAST for three main reasons. So the first thing is we know that impacts are accelerating. The storms are compounding, we see the effects of sea levels rising, and communities have less and less time to recover between events. So we simply cannot afford to learn slowly or in silos any longer. The second thing is funding windows for adaptation and for the blue economy are opening, but they do demand evidence, partnerships, well-documented cases. So a network like CARICOAST helps us make our collective work more visible and more ready for investment and financial support. And finally, there is a growing community of Caribbean practitioners, researchers, NGOs, and government teams who are already generating incredible insights on coastal ecosystem restoration, climate-smart fisheries, nature-based solutions. So CARICOAST is giving us a shared home where those insights can live and they can travel and inspire others. So this network is really not just one more project website. It is an invitation to treat resilience as a shared regional practice and where what we learn in one coastline can shorten the learning curve and maybe even soften the landing for another coastline. Next slide, Alice. Thank you. So you might be wondering, okay, how can we engage with CARICOAST? And really, there are different modalities, and it's entirely up to you. But I'd like to reemphasize what Alice proposed as the three key actions that you can engage through: learn, share, and connect. So in terms of learning, once you join the network on We Adapt, you can explore articles, case studies, blogs, trainings that are already tagged under CARICOAST and that cover themes like coastal ecosystem restoration, climate smart fisheries and livelihoods, blue carbon, adaptation planning, and others. And if you start a new project, you can first, search for similar experiences, see what has worked, what didn't, and avoid repeating the same mistakes. Secondly, we have share. So CARICOAST becomes very powerful when you want to make your work visible. You can upload your case studies, you can post blogs highlighting innovation, challenges, open-ended questions, and you can also showcase events and courses that you may be preparing through your own organization. So it's more like a living library of Caribbean coastal practices. And lastly, connecting. So the network also lets you see who else is working on similar issues, from people at government to NGOs, and to the research or community leaders on the ground. So you can follow members that are in CARICOAST, you can follow other organizations, and you can use the platform to reach out directly and network. You can reach out for advice, for peer support, and use the forum space to pose questions and to start conversations. And we are planning to, in the forum area, curate a particular theme or topic. We'll have 3 every year. So every 4 months, we will, propose a new theme, but you can also propose. This is a space for co-creation, really. So I guess my invitation for those in the call here today and listening is very simple. It's don't just bookmark, CARICOAST, but move in, bring in your work, your questions, your doubts, and all the lessons that you have learned. And if we use this space wisely, it can really become a backbone for the nature, community-based, and climate-resilient futures that we want to see in our Caribbean coasts. In the next slide, I think we have some examples of what is already on the CARICOAST. Of course, This is the inception call. You are, co-founding this with us today. So there isn't a lot of material there yet, although there's a lot of cross-posting with other thematic areas that are relevant to CARICOAST. But our idea is to really see this space build and be nurtured by some of you.
LG, the compressor disaster.
Sorry, am I just muted? Okay, great. Thank you, Alice. I think that's the key thing that I wanted to bring in today. Thank you all for joining. As we speak, we're going to drop in the chat the link to the CARICOAST so you can join the network. And I'll pass on over to you, Alice, again.
Thank you so much, Laura, and brilliant intro to the CARICOAST network. And as you said, as Laura said, this is very much the inception of the network. So we invite you to have a look. There's already quite a few resources on there, but we really want to populate it in the weeks, months, and years ahead. So this is an invitation to you to share your work and to participate, to connect with others. And you'll find in that space, as Laura mentioned, just a range of resources from examples of case studies and solutions, courses, trainings, blogs and events, and much more. So the CARICOAST network looks like this. This is a sort of a screenshot version of the network. The first thing I'd like to invite you to do is to join the network, to become a member of the network. And in order to do this, you will have to sign up to WeAdapt and then go on the CARICOAST network page, which I can't see if it has been shared in the chat yet. Yes, it has. Great. So click on the link and then you will be able to join the network by hovering over the join network button on the top right. And what becoming a member of the network does is that it allows you to receive notification when new content is posted or when new forum posts are posted, and you'll be able to set those notifications. This is something we're still working on finalizing in terms of how to allow people to set their notification, but this is something that should be there fairly soon. You'll be able to have a visible profile on the members tab of the network. So this is where other people will be able to find you and to connect with you. As I mentioned, soon there will be the possibility to send direct messages to other users. At the moment, this isn't there yet, but this is something our developers are working on. And just in general, this will allow you to become part of the community of practice, to take part in forums. And in fact, you can post in forums without being a member. But becoming a member just means you'll get notifications and that you will be visible in the members page. What you can do on the page there, you can see there's a button to create new forum posts. You can also access forum topics on here. You'll see the latest content on the main page. You can also see there's different categories which will allow to filter if you're interested in particular sub-themes. So these are the main actions you can do on the network. This is how to register on the WeAdapt platform. So you just type in www.weadapt.org, or you can do this from the link to the CARICOAST network. In the top bar of the site, you will get a button, sign in, register, and from there you can create a new account. It's free, it's very simple. There's no spam. We're very careful about this. This is just about signing up to WeAdapt. You can, if you want, sign up to our newsletter, but this is optional. This is an example of your user page. Once you sign up, you will get a user page. We encourage people who sign up to edit their page. So the way you do this is go on your profile in the top bar, and then under the About page, you can click on Edit Information. And this will allow you to edit your profile, upload a new image, change the organization that you're affiliated with if you'd like. This is important for the networking and the connecting aspects of the network, because this means people will be able to see your work, what you work on, what organization you work on, where you're based, etc. So this is quite helpful. You can also connect your LinkedIn profile and connect with people on LinkedIn. And now I'd like to introduce our editors for the network. We currently have 3 fantastic editors that I'm very delighted to introduce. We have Laura, who has spoken already, but I'll introduce, I'll let the 2 others introduce themselves and then pass on the floor to Laura. But Zoe Brown is a PhD student at the University of Oxford, and Melchorita Castro Gutierrez is an analyst at Libellula. So Zoe, if you wouldn't mind just briefly introducing yourself and explaining why you were interested in joining the CARICOAST network as an editor, that would be great. Thank you.
Yeah, like Alice just mentioned, I'm doing my PhD, and I specifically look at nature-based solutions for climate adaptation in small island developing states. So some of my work is based in the Pacific, but a lot of it it just sits globally. So it's rooted in the Caribbean. I'm also from the Caribbean. I'm from the Bahamas. So firsthand experience a lot of, I guess, climate impacts on our coastlines. And my work is hoping to build knowledge about how we can most effectively address that. So being an editor on this is just very personal, but then also very related to my academic work. And also I was already an editor at We Adapt, so it feels natural to kind of build into a different theme and get to read more papers and hopefully, as I publish my own work, contribute.
Wonderful. Thank you, Zoe. Melchorita, can I pass the floor over to you?
Yes, for sure. Thank you, Alice. As Alice mentions, I'm Melchorita. I'm from Peru. I'm currently working on supporting governance processes and building capacities on practitioners working on climate action across Latin America and the Caribbean. So this is why I'm interested to join the CARICOAST network, because from this regional approach, I think that it's very important that we can address this cultural, political, and language barrier that we face as a region with the Caribbean, and how we can build inclusive and collaborative governance in Latin America and the Caribbean. Because yes, these Caribbean countries are very vulnerable to climate change, but have been developed some innovative and effective mechanisms over the years that I think that are very important to be visible and to be replicated within our countries.
Fantastic. Thank you, Melchorita. Laura, I will give you back the floor.
Thank you. Okay, so for those who don't know me, I'm Laura Canevari. My background is in coastal management, marine science, and I have a master's and PhD in geography, focusing on coastal resilience on islands. And as this slide projects, I'm the founder and CEO of Ithaca Solutions. So perhaps some of you don't know Ithaca, and it might be helpful to understand why we are here. Firstly, to say that we were so thrilled to receive the invitation from We Adapt to host this specific community of practice, because it really aligns with our purpose, with why we are in the Caribbean, what are we trying to achieve. So our vision really is to help develop climate-ready, transformative, and inclusive Caribbean communities that are led by prepared and motivated local champions. And this part is very critical to us, because we believe that climate realities in the Caribbean are best understood by those who first experience it. And there's so much capacity and knowledge by local professionals that remains untapped, that our intention when we started Ithaca was really to try to mobilize local teams and local professionals to be the builders of climate resilience in the region, and to help to build their capacity so they can better plan and implement climate resilience. Now, we work on 3 specific areas, and each of them is strongly connected to one of our overarching goals. So we work a lot on education and training. that goes from working at the school, primary, secondary level, all the way to very technical training for credit risk managers or different stakeholders, you know, in the private sector and the public sector. We support project development, especially as it pertains building inclusive processes that will help to ensure that the theories of change and the project intervention logics on coastal and climate resilience in the region really represent the voices of many different stakeholder groups and vulnerable communities. And we do also a lot of expert consulting. And this wouldn't be possible, really, if it wasn't because of our network of experts, the Ithaca Collective, which now holds over 220 experts from the Caribbean or with experience in the Caribbean who support our work throughout the region. So when we heard about the opportunity to build this community of practice, we thought there couldn't be a better alignment, you know, to help, you know, build what we have already started working on our own, but what better than to partner with We Adapt in sharing knowledge, in building a platform that can help people learn, connect, and share on climate resilience in the region. I will share in the link, I will share in the chat a link to where you can become a professional in our network, if that is something that is of interest to you. The idea is that within the Ithaca Collective, we implement projects, but then everything that we learn, everything that we have experienced that we want to showcase, you know, to others to support and inspire others to do better coastal adaptation, we're going to be sharing it as well through the We Adapt platform. So they become very intertwined, the inner work and implementation on the one hand, and then the showcasing and sharing with the world what we are doing. So I'll just post that on the chat. And also there's my email there. If you want to know anything more about Ithaca and how to get involved, please don't hesitate to reach out directly.
Thank you so much, Laura. And maybe to that, I will add that from a We Adapt perspective, we're very delighted to collaborate with Ithaca on this project, because for us as a global platform, as I mentioned at the beginning, it's very important for us to support locally led initiative that support other organizations in a specific region, rather than solutions coming from the top down. So we're really delighted to work with an organization like Ithaca, who has a network, who already has expertise and really 2 feet in the region. And another point I wanted to mention on the editor's note, I will just come back here for a second, is that we have 3 editors, and we're really grateful to have Zoe, Laura, and Melchorita, but obviously we are hoping that the network, the community of practice will grow. So we will be looking for new editors for the network. If this is something that you are interested in, please do reach out. We are very open to different profiles for the editors. Essentially, the editors review the content before it gets published. It's slightly different from reviewing an academic paper. It doesn't go in as much depth because we only publish content on the platform that has already been published. So it's mostly reviewing the executive summary or the summary of the article that is published on the platform. It's less onerous than being a reviewer for a peer-reviewed article. But this is a great opportunity to be active on We Adapt and to be connected with other editors, to be at the forefront of knowledge, in this case on coastal resilience and adaptation in the Caribbean. So it should be quite a fun and exciting role. If you're interested, please do reach out. So now we'll just take a little moment to turn to you and ask you where you're coming from and what you're working on. And the invitation is to go on the link that is on the slide, menti.com. And you can use the code, and then there are a few questions just about where you're based, what you're working on, and some of the things you'd be interested in sort of benefiting from the network. So in a moment, I will stop sharing, and then we will have a look at the answers together online. So if you take a minute to answer some of the questions.
I think we are only able to go to the first one.
Yes,
I'm not
that's
sure.
right.
Okay.
So hopefully you can see my screen? Oh, I can
Yes,
see
we can
someone
see.
asking for the code.
The
Let
code's there,
me-
Alice, on the top screen.
Yes, that's right. The code is on the top screen. So if you're still trying to fill in the Mentimeter, you can use the screen in the top. So we have already arranged. So people from the Caribbean, but also from the UK, Canada, the US.
Which country are you currently based in? How do I actually answer a question?
You have
So
to go
to
on
answer-
Menti, Nigel, and then put the code that's on the top of the screen.
Great. So I'll move on to the next slide.
You're muted, Alice.
So the majority working on the consultancy and research field, I can see. I'll move along to the next slide. Laura, would you mind reposting the link for the Mentimeter? Thank you.
Yes, one sec.
Perfect. Excellent. Had you heard about WeAdapt before? Good. So some new faces on here, which is great. Okay, we'll move on to the next slide. What topics or themes do you work on among
I
some
think
of
we
these
can only
options?
choose the main one. I think that's the
Yes.
main.
Right. Quite a range so far. Good.
Very good.
Excellent. So we've got actually quite a range and a lot working on community-based adaptation. We've got nature, we've got policy and finance, coastal resilience, and obviously there is a lot of overlap between some of these topics, but it's great to see a range. Next slide. How do you think the CARICOAST network could best support your work? And I believe that you should be able to select multiple responses. Again, there's quite a wide range of responses, but there is an appetite for connections and getting visibility, which is good because this is exactly what can happen on the network. Wait another few seconds. And this one is an open question. If you have any other idea about how the network could support your work, and more widely coastal resilience in the Caribbean. Don't be shy. We're welcoming any wild ideas you might have. Collaborate with other platforms. So sharing funding opportunities, this is something that very much can be done on the network. And in fact, this is something that we do on the wider WeAdapt platform. We can use forums for opportunities and events. So this is something that both the host, the editors, as well as any member of the network can post. In fact, you don't need to be a member of the network to post on networks.
So
Capacity building in coastal communities, collaborating with other organizations, supporting project funding opportunities, fundraising, LinkedIn, connecting with LinkedIn, real-time data on incoming threats. This is an interesting point. I don't know if you want to comment, Laura, on the point on real-time data.
Yeah, I think one of the critical things that we need to achieve in the Caribbean is to better collaborate. Because what I see sometimes is a lot of replication of efforts, and this really dilutes, financial resources available. I think what we can do is there are already existing networks and organizations that really they excel at developing real-time data sets for, setting up early warning systems, setting up platforms to help users of different kinds accessing data. So I think what we can do is to better showcase where those platforms are, kind of have a repository of links to other initiatives that connect to what the CARICOAST is doing. And in a way, maybe also invite them, to showcase some of their work through case studies, or how is the data being used, what successful case studies are there on how real-time data helped, a community prepare for a storm or something like that. I would just be very cautious not to overextend without first checking that there aren't already other groups in the region doing that. And it's quite surprising, because the Caribbean, you think of, okay, it's like such a, it's a contained region by this basin, but yet everything happens in isolation. And I have seen many times, replication of efforts. So I think it's a great idea for CARICOAST to, find a way to showcase where that data is, but to rather complement and support what others are doing in that space.
Thanks, Laura. I'm going to go back to the presentation, and thank you all for sharing those ideas. We'll come back to them, and this will probably give us ideas about how to continue populating the network and to make it helpful for everybody. So hopefully you can see my screen again. And so this is very much a wrap up of the presentation and how you can use the network, make it your own, participate. The first one is using it, as we've mentioned, as a learning space, browsing for insights, for case studies, research solutions, courses, trainings, as well as we've just mentioned, potentially funding and research opportunities. Please don't be shy, use forums to share all those information. The second one is, as I've just mentioned, actually be kept in touch about events and exciting opportunities, from funding to jobs, to conferences, to trainings, etc. You can share your own work. Feel free to post anything that you've published, whether they are peer-reviewed publication, but also we're very much open to different types of content, from stories, photo stories. We also host podcasts, and in fact, I have a slide with that explain the different types of content that you can post. I think it's the next slide. And you can connect with others, follow others, send messages to other people that you are interested in collaborating with, or developing new projects with. And finally, use forums to co-create ideas, to brainstorm ideas, to share your experiences on the ground, to ask questions. I saw someone on the Menti who said they're looking for perspective from the Caribbean. Please use the network for this purpose. This is exactly why this network is there for, is to engage with people working in the Caribbean, to ask for feedback, to ask for ideas, etc. So the type of content you can add on the platform is quite broad. In general, we do publish content that is published elsewhere first. So that would be reports, policy, or just general briefs, case studies, academic papers, working papers, but also content that is a little bit less scientific or formal, like blogs or opinion pieces. We love to have photo stories as well. Podcasts and interviews, videos, documentaries that are online. We can easily embed videos on the platform, embed videos in podcasts. We also host courses, trainings, toolkits. Those are very popular on WeAdapt. They're some of the most popular content because there's an appetite for skill building and capacity building. And of course, you can also advertise your events. Oh, I've just noticed there's a typo there, or summary or recordings of past events. So you could use it as a repository. You will get a page for your profile or your organization. So you could use it as a repository for your organization, because on your organization or profile page, you will be able to see all of the content that has been associated with either the organization or your personal profile. So this is also a really good way of using the platform as a repository for your work. A slide to explain what the requirements are for publishing content on the platform. The first one, it has to be relevant with climate resilience and adaptation, but we take that to quite widely. So, anything relevant to adaptation, or if there are synergies with mitigation, or if it's linked with disaster risk, human mobility, etc. All those themes are absolutely appropriate. Nature, biodiversity, all of those cross topics are very much relevant for WeAdapt. It has to be free and open access. We unfortunately don't publish articles that are behind a paywall. This is because it's part of our ethos to make content available to everybody. If you're sharing an article or a case study or report, it really has to have results. We don't publish, for example, project overviews. It has to have kind of clear, concrete results or takeaways or lessons learned to share. This is because we want the content to be usable and practical for our audience. And the final point is that it has to have been, as I mentioned, originally published before by via an institution. So that can be report, working paper, etc., etc. We don't accept original content at the moment, but we do sometimes do interviews with organizations or individuals. This is to say that in order to publish or to submit content, at the moment, you can go under the share button on the platform. However, we're about to change this. At the moment, we're just moving to a form that will look like this on the platform. So hold on, we're just about to have a new button on the site that will lead to this form, which will be very simple. Hopefully, there's also a Word document version of this if you prefer filling it offline. The type of questions will essentially be around information about you, your name, your last name, the organization you work for, your email address so we can contact you. as well as information about the type of content you're submitting. What we really want, especially if you're publishing if you're submitting a publication, is to have a summary, like an executive summary of that publication. And this is what we ask for a little bit further down the line in the form. Usually a summary of a publication would be about, I wrote here, between 800 and 1,500 words. The instructions are there if you're interested, so I won't get into too much detail. I can see there's a question by Carolyn. Maybe I'll stop there to take the question. If it's relevant to publishing content, otherwise I will keep going because we're nearly at the end of the presentation, and then I'll leave time for a few questions if there are any. Very quick note on the review process. So usually a user submits content, then myself as the knowledge manager would do a first round of review, then I would send it to one of our editors who would review it, and then provided everybody is happy with the content and the process, then we publish it on the platform, and then we republish it via our newsletter and social media. So it's a really great way of getting more visibility for your work. This is the example of a member page. This is Laura's page, for example. And you can follow users. So if you're interested in the content that a user produces, you can follow them and you'll be notified when they publish content. You can view their latest content. You can view the organization they're part of, as well as their biography. And in their biography, you'll be able to also access their LinkedIn detail if they have shared them. This is the page for Ithaca Solutions. Every organization, we have over 2,000 on the platform, has a page like this. As I mentioned, this is quite useful for organization if you want to use it as a repository for your work, because all of the content that you've published or that the organization has published will feature on that page, and you can get a specific URL. You'll see all of the members of the platform who are part of that organization, as well as a profile. Just a page to talk about our forum discussion. Anyone is welcome to share content, as we've already discussed. And I think this is really, we've covered this. This is the end. So this is just an invitation to go on the platform, the WeAdapt platform, sign in. Well, register first and then sign in. You can create a profile. And then once you've signed in, we invite you to join the profile and become part of the community of practice. We're very excited to have you on board, have you join, have you participate and connect with others. I don't know, Laura, if you have any closing words for this
Thanks,
presentation.
Alice. Well, I'd just like to thank you all for showing up today. I know how busy our schedules are, and the fact that you're here already here, it shows, the importance of this initiative and the commitment towards the region. Now, this is just the launch. It's not the destination. So what will make CARICOAST very powerful is what each of you brings after today. So now CARICOAST is as much ours as it is yours. Let's fill it with stories, with tools, collaborations, ideas. Let's stay connected. Let's keep sharing to turn this network into concrete resilience on the ground. And I guess at a personal level, I just hope that when we look back in a few years, we can say, okay, CARICOAST has really helped pave the way for Caribbean coastal resilience, and you're as much part of that journey as are us, the first founders of this. So thank you for showing up today.
Thanks, everybody. I can see there's 2 questions, so maybe we'll give the floor to Carolyn and then Todd, and I hope I haven't mispronounced your names.
Hi, this is Carolyn. Yes, thanks very much for taking my question. I just had a question about guidelines for publishing work on the CARICOAST site. And so did I hear you say that like private reports done for NGOs, they've been published and vetted by the organization? I'm a consultant and was hired to do a report, for example, on lessons learned from the last 10 years of livelihood initiatives in Belize. And that would be very useful to other people Is that type of document publishable on your website?
Yes, indeed.
Okay, thank you. I just wasn't sure that met your criteria.
I will
Thanks.
just try to find the form and post it in
Yeah,
chat.
the criteria was very small when you showed it on the screen, so I
Yes.
couldn't really read it. Yeah. All right, thanks. That was it.
And I think that's exactly right, Caroline. I mean, as someone who's been working in consulting for so long, there is so much to be shared, from repositories of reports that we have done, from lessons learned, recommendations in reports, that it just, once the project ends, it kind of it's not seen by anyone outside of that project. So the idea is that in this platform, we're able to, take that information on board to the next level by sharing it with others and inspiring further action.
Todd, would you like to share your question?
Yes, thank you very much. For some reason, my camera isn't working, but that's okay. I just want to thank the organizers, but also to, if I may, try to promote a research nonprofit effort underway with a group of 100 people around the world to catalog adaptation policies across countries. This is funded by the U.S. National Science Foundation, approved by the previous president of the United States. And it is ongoing, and we need Caribbean specialists in climate mitigation and adaptation policy. So I appreciate very much the opportunity to make this request and feel it is a great kind of use of this network, which I very much appreciate and thank you for creating. And I'm sorry to be a little aggressive about publicizing this. It's just that we're trying to find these experts, if possible, by January. I have left my email at American University, where I'm a professor of government here in Washington, D.C. I have left that in the chat, and I thank you for letting me take this moment.
Thank you, Todd. I've taken note. I'm trying to find your email on the chat, but in the meantime, I will put mine as well on the chat whilst I find it. And yeah, feel free to reach out. And we have a network of over 220 professionals in the region, from the region, and working in the region. So we can talk afterwards, in more detail, what are the types of experts and expertise that you're looking for, and see if we can source it through our network of Ithaca Collective.
Great, and I think I think the email was shared on the Mentimeter, so I can share that.
All right, yeah, thanks. I'm not seeing it on the chat.
Well, we are just on the hour, so unless there are any further questions, I think we will close here. We close the launch of this webinar, of this network, but obviously this is only the beginning, so we look forward to seeing you online very soon on the CARICOAST network. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, everyone.